The Battleship Iowa Museum is located in the Port of Los Angeles in San Pedro. The Port of Los Angeles is the busiest port in the Western Hemisphere, and the battleship is located at the Los Angeles World Cruise Center. Battleship Iowa served our country proudly in World War II, Korea, and during the Cold War. The Battleship Iowa Museum opened in Los Angeles on July 4th, 2012, offering daily tours, group programs, educational visits, and special events. The USS Iowa Museum features a variety of fascinating exhibits that explore the different aspects of this famous battleship's history. General admission includes a self-guided tour where visitors can walk the wooden decks of the ship on your own, explore the decks and the compartments, and learn about the ship's history through exhibits and displays. The museum has special exhibits, including a Lost at Sea exhibit featuring shipwrecks that Dr. Bob Ballard has discovered. The Artifacts Gallery displays a variety of items, including photographs, books, uniforms, and rifles related to naval history. Additional add-on guided tours include stops to see the 16-inch guns, the officer wardroom, President Roosevelt's cabin, the armored bridge, the missile deck, and other areas. A battleship is basically a floating artillery battery. The size of the ship is determined by the size of her guns. For the Iowa's 16-inch guns, a 45,500-ton platform. This design included a length of 887 feet, 6 inches, and a beam of 108 feet, 3 inches. Powered by Westinghouse steam turbine generators with a reduction gear to the main shaft and screw, maximum speed was about 33 knots, with a cruising range of about 20,000 nautical miles. With her high speed, Iowa was assigned to Carrier Task Force protection. During World War II and the Korean War, nearly 2,700 sailors served aboard the Iowa. In the 1980s, 1,500 sailors served aboard the ship. The Iowa's primary armament was 3 Mark VII 16-inch guns mounted in 3 turrets. The guns would be manned by 70 or more sailors in each turret structure, which involved 5 decks, including the powder deck, shell deck, and the electrical deck. A 16-inch shell would be loaded in the breech, along with 6 bags of power behind each shell to launch it towards the enemy, with a maximum range of about 24 miles. The battleship also has Mark XII 5-inch artillery pieces mounted in pairs in 10 different turrets above the main deck, with 19 anti-aircraft armaments of 4 guns each and with 52 Mark II autocannons. While under construction, the U.S. Navy realized that the battleship was no longer the primary capital ship in the fleet. That shifted to aircraft carriers with their long-range power projection in naval battles with the Japanese fleet. Battleship Iowa was commissioned in early 1943. Its first mission involved blocking the German battleship Tirpitz from breaking out into the North Atlantic. Fitted with precise radar, the Iowa could fight at night and in bad weather, making it a formidable warship. The Iowa's second mission, in November of 1943, was transporting President Franklin Delano Roosevelt across the Atlantic to North Africa to meet with British Prime Minister Churchill and Soviet Premier Joseph Stalin. The President's cabin is where Roosevelt spent his time on board with his war cabinet as he traveled to meet with Allied leaders. The Iowa hosted 3 presidents, including Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Ronald Reagan, and George H.W. Bush. In early 1944, Battleship Iowa joined the Navy's 5th Fleet, which operated in the Pacific Ocean. At the time, U.S. forces were engaged in taking Japanese position on Pacific Islands. The battleship's role was in support of troop landing and protecting aircraft carriers during the operation in the Philippines. The changing tactics of naval warfare changed the role of battleships. The Iowa never used its guns against surface ships. Instead, its role was to use its firepower against enemy coastal positions. The Iowa had very accurate fire control for a ship from the 1940s. So accurate that in the 1980s, when the Iowa was retrofitted with updated systems and electronics, the fire control system was left intact because of its accuracy. The Iowa was outfitted for the Cold War with Harpoon anti-ship missiles in the 1980s, along with 32 Tomahawk missiles with a range of 1,000 miles to counter an expanding Soviet Navy. The Iowa was decommissioned for the last time in 1990. Unique in that she had 3 careers in the Navy, with World War II, Korea, and the Cold War of the 1980s. Now the Iowa is working on her 4th career as a floating maritime museum. In 2012, 58 years after her launch in the New York Naval shipyards, Battleship Iowa was berthed at the Port of Los Angeles to serve as a maritime museum. Since its opening, Battleship Iowa has welcomed millions of visitors and is considered one of the top 5 museums in Los Angeles. Battleship Iowa is an iconic Los Angeles landmark and considered one of the city's best outdoor museums for family and visitors of all ages.